Have you ever thought about how these criminals operate? Some of the biggest and arguably the most wanted of these criminals you could maybe ever want to see in the world. What do you do if you were in their shoes? Welcome to our channel, Real Outlaws, where in this video we will talk about the worst of the worst in the whole world. So if you love videos like this, you should definitely subscribe to our channel to never miss out. And if you did, let's see those criminals. Starting with Doku Umarov, aka Doka Abu Usman. Doku Umarov was born on April 13, 1964 and described himself as the separatist leader of Chechnya, Ingushetia, USSR, now known as Chechnya, Russia. He was also the self-proclaimed military leader of the Islamic Caucasus Emirate, which includes several Islamic territories in and around Chechnya, Russia. So yes, a big evil with a wide reach. In 1994, during the war between the Chechen renegades and Russia, he joined the Chechen renegades. He quickly rose through the ranks and was appointed Brigadier General of the Chechen Armed Forces at the end of the war in 1996. In 1997, he was appointed head of the Security Council of the Chechen Republic of Ichkeria. However, after being accused of several kidnappings and abuse of office, he was removed from office. He then took part in another war between Russia and the Chechen Republic. He was a highly decorated soldier, and after the death of the then president of the Republic in 2005, he was initially appointed vice president of the Republic's government. He was then appointed president in 2006. Abusing his position as president of the Republic, he called for the establishment of an Islamic Caucasus Emirate and the introduction of Sharia law in it. In addition, he was involved in calling people to fight in the holy war of jihad. And you would think of doing something like this would definitely make people think badly about him, right? But it was not like that. In 2009, he summoned a battalion of suicide bombers and declared Russia as his target. These bombers killed more than 24 people aboard a train from Moscow. In 2010, he released a video in which he claimed responsibility for several attacks on Russian soil and threatened more attacks. In 2011, he released another video claiming responsibility for a suicide bombing at Moscow airport that killed more than 30 people. In 2012, he sought support from his supporters to disrupt the 2014 Winter Olympics in Russia. However, no attacks occurred during the event. It has also been alleged that during his tenure as Security Council chairman, he led a siege of a school in Messina, Russia, that killed more than 300 people. Because of his widespread acts of terrorism, he was added to the United Nations Security Council list of individuals linked to the widespread al-Qaeda network of Islamic militants. He was also declared a wanted terrorist by the U.S. State Department. And then there was Joseph Kony. Have you heard of him before? Born in 1961, Joseph Kony was the leader of the Lord's Resistance Army, a military group responsible for numerous terrorist activities in northern Uganda. He described himself as a prophet for the Alkoli people and led a Holy Spirit movement against the Ugandan government. Although the movement failed in 1998, it led to the formation of the LRA, a military group based on the ideas of religion and traditional beliefs. Their goal was to establish a government based on the principles of the Bible's 10 Commandments. By posing as a prophet, he duped the LRA into believing that his orders were actually transmitted by spirits. Under his leadership, the LRA attacked hundreds of villages and committed numerous crimes such as murder, rape, and mutilation, causing more than 2 million people to flee their homes. They kidnapped young children and brainwashed them, recruited them as soldiers, or kept them as slaves. Kony himself is said to have married over 50 female prisoners. And how do you think that affected his control over people? In 2005, the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for him for human rights violations and war crimes, including over 10,000 murders and the abduction and enslavement of over 24,000 children. In 2006, however, he made a peace officer, and after a series of negotiations, a peace agreement was reached in 2008. However, he refused to sign it before the ICC lifted arrest warrants issued against him and other LRA members. Kony and the LRA left Uganda in 2006 for Congo and Sudan, which became their new terror targets. The armed forces of Uganda Congo, and Sudan undertook a joint military action against him. However, this action failed, and LRA atrocities increased in Congo, Sudan, and the Central African Republic. In 2016 and 2017, they were responsible for hundreds of kidnappings and killings in the region. Felician Kabuga is really old but had a really important part in history. Born on March 1, 1933, Felician was one of the richest men in the country before the 1994 Rwandan genocide. He was the husband of the president of the National Revolutionary Movement for Development, whose death was one of the main reasons for the Rwandan genocide. Of course, Felician couldn't do that all by himself, right? Felician was chairman and co-founder of an institution called the Fonds de Défense Nationale. Through this institution, he funded the Rwandan Transitional Government and the military groups that committed the Rwandan genocide. It also provided them with logistical support by supplying them with weapons, uniforms, transport vehicles. The U.S. State Department had offered a $5 million reward for information leading to Felician's arrest, rendition, or conviction. After the 1994 genocide, the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda indicted him on 7 counts, including crimes against humanity and genocide. Of course, we can't forget about Alimzhan Tokhtakhunov. Born in Uzbekistan on January 1, 1949, Alimzhan is a Russian businessman who has been arrested 7 times for various offenses. His criminal profile began in his early 30s, when he was arrested twice for parasitism, a crime under the laws of the Soviet Union in which the person was accused of living at the expense of people in society. In 1989, he took Israeli citizenship and was involved in international arms sales. In 2002, he was accused of bribing the referees of the 2022 Winter Olympics. He was arrested and subsequently extradited to Russia. By the way, have you heard of Alimzhan before this video? Don't forget to tell us about him down in the comment section. In 2013, the U.S. Southern District Court in New York indicted him for his involvement in the Taiwan Sheikh Trencher Organization. This organization was responsible for laundering billions of dollars from illegal international gambling operations run from Russia and Ukraine. He is also said to be one of the leaders of the organization who belonged to the Thieves-in-Law group. The main purpose of this group was to provide protection to criminals around the world in exchange for money and to settle disputes between criminals through threats of physical and economic harm. Nasir al-Wuhayshi was connected to both al-Qaeda and to Osama bin Laden. Nasir was born in Yemen on October 1, 1976, and was a member of several religious institutions in Yemen before joining al-Qaeda in 1988. During this time with al-Qaeda, he served as secretary to the al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden. He rose to power and became head of al-Qaeda's Yemeni operations in 2002. Later, in 2009, the merger of al-Qaeda's Yemeni and Saudi Arabian operations led to the creation of al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, of which he was appointed leader. Under Wuhayshi's leadership, AQAP has committed numerous terrorist activities around the world. Its rise began with the 2003 bombings in Riyadh, and it gained widespread attention after the 2008 attack on the U.S. Embassy in Sana'a. In 2009, AQAP claimed responsibility for the attempted bombing of a U.S. passenger plane. In 2015, it claimed responsibility for a terrorist attack at the offices of the Charlie Hebdo weekly newspaper in Paris that killed 12 people and injured more than 11. AQAP is also accused of attempting to smuggle bombs through U.S. cargo planes in 2010. Matteo Messina Denaro gives us perspective from the Mafia for those who really want to see it. Born in Sicily on April 26, 1962, Denaro's path to the Trapani Mafia Commission was preordained, as if it was headed by his father. He reportedly committed his first murder at the age of 18 and made a name for himself by killing a rival mafia boss. His father's death paved the way for the mafia, which was now under his command. After the arrest of another mafia leader in the province of Trapani, he joined forces and became the leader of the largest mafia group in the province. And of course, what do you know about mafia? And how much different is it from the one you heard in the video? He was involved in numerous crimes, starting with extorting businessmen in the name of protection, and taking over public works contracts. He was also part of drug trafficking cartels that spanned Germany and Belgium. In 1993, he was responsible for the bombing of the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, Italy, which killed 6 people and injured 26 others. He was also the mastermind of several terrorist bombings throughout Italy that killed 10 people and injured over 93 others. In total, he is wanted for over 50 murders. James Whitey Bulger was just like Matteo Messina Denaro, but with an American twist. Whitey Bulger, aka James Joseph Bulger Jr., was born on September 3, 1929 in Massachusetts and was one of the most feared American gangsters from 1960 to 1990. At a young age, he was arrested several times for forgery, assault, and coercion. He operated mainly from Boston and was the leader of the Winter Hill Gang. In 1956, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison for several bank robberies. However, he was paroled in 1965 and then joined the Winter Hill Gang as an enforcer. He later became an informant for the Federal Bureau of Investigation. However, instead of providing information to the FBI, he began to control the FBI agents and use them to his own advantage. Soon he took over the gang and began extorting money from businessmen, drug dealers, and other criminals. Because of his connection to the FBI, his name was never mentioned. During his time, he committed 19 murders. After his connection to the FBI was exposed, he fled Boston and began living under a false identity. Then, of course, we have Rafael Caro Quintero. Born in Sinaloa on October 24, 1952, he left his hometown at the age of 20 and became involved in drug trafficking in Chihuahua. At first, he grew marijuana on a small scale and then raised enough money to begin large-scale productions before becoming the leader of the drug trade in Mexico. His main activity was to smuggle drugs in large quantities across the borders of the United States and Mexico. He merged several cartels into huge drug trafficking cartels in Mexico and became its leader. He kidnapped a U.S. narcotics agent for participating in the raid and seizure of his marijuana, resulting in a loss of $160 million. He also murdered 3 other people. We're almost at the finish line with Omid Tahvili. Omid Tahvili was born in Iran on October 31, 1970, and came to Canada in 1994, where he was involved in drug trafficking and arrested before he reached the age of majority as the leader of an Iranian organized crime family operating out of Canada. He is principally accused of operating a fraudulent telemarketing business in the U.S., defrauding hundreds of victims of a sum in excess of $3 million over a 3-year period from 1999 to 2002. In 2003, the District Court of Southern California charged him with mail fraud, wire fraud, telemarketing fraud, and aiding and abetting. And our last one is, of course, Pedro Antonio Marin. Born May 13, 1930 in Colombia, Marin joined a guerrilla self-defense group at age 20 after the massacre of his town and family. He then received military training from communist instructors and, along with 48 other fighters, founded the Fuerzas Armadas Revolucionarias de Colombia in 1964. Have you ever heard about those in the news or old archives? It is old, but should not be forgotten. He founded the FARC with the goal of overthrowing the Colombian government of the time. The organization found support in local villages and towns and grew to over 12,000 fighters and thousands of followers. Primarily, it came out attacks against the Colombian military and government. It was also involved in drug trafficking, extortion, assassinations, and other terrorist activities. Marin was single-handedly responsible for manufacturing and distributing drugs in the United States, taxing drug trafficking in Colombia, and killing anyone who opposed his policies. And that, folks, is our last criminal. Of course, for more videos like this, you can always subscribe to our channel, Real Outlaws, to get notified every single time. Thanks for viewing the video. Have a great day, and goodbye.